20 years ago, a single decision by Officer Jonathan John Harris sent shockwaves through a quiet little town called Meadow Grove. One brisk autumn evening, he found himself responsible for 6 orphaned sisters, each facing an uncertain future. John wasn't just an unassuming local cop anymore. He was about to become a father to girls no one else seemed to want. Yet, from the very moment he held their trembling hands and promised them a home, an extraordinary story took shape. In this moving tale of compassion, resilience, and destiny, discover how one man's courage to care reshaped not just 6 young lives, but an entire community. John Harris spent most of his adult life patrolling the tidy streets of Meadow Grove. Surrounded by picket fences, manicured lawns, and friendly waves from neighbors, he appeared to be the personification of small-town stability. He'd grown up only a few towns over. After graduating from the local police academy, he accepted a position in Meadow Grove, hoping to carve out a quiet but meaningful career. The locals admired him for his respectful way of dealing with petty crimes and for always taking time to chat with senior citizens. Yet beneath the image of the dutiful officer lay a hollow sense of loss. John's wife, Sarah, had passed away 8 years earlier, leaving him grappling with loneliness. She'd been the one who made their house a home, filling every corner with warmth and laughter. In her absence, the house felt cold and quiet. Each night, John would sit at the table with a plate of reheated food and wonder if life would ever grant him the warmth of family again. On a crisp evening, a call came through John's police radio that would unravel his life as he knew it and stitch it back together in a way he never expected. Dispatch reported that Child Protective Services needed help at an abandoned 2-story house on Hawthorne Lane. Multiple minors were involved. John felt a prickle of concern. Meadow Grove wasn't known for extreme neglect cases, so something about this call felt weighty from the start. When John arrived, a social worker rushed to him with relief. "Officer, thank goodness. We've got 6 sisters inside ages, ranging from 3 to 11. Neighbors say they've been here alone for days. Their parents died in a tragic accident out of state, and no one claimed the girls." John stepped into the dimly lit living room and found 6 frightened faces. The oldest, a slender girl with braided hair, clutched a younger sibling's hand. The youngest sat on the couch, tears smudging her cheeks. Although they were safe for the moment, John felt a pang. These little ones were entirely adrift, on the verge of being placed in separate foster homes. Amid the heartbreak, the oldest girl managed a tiny greeting. "I'm Ania," she said. "We've been waiting for someone to tell us what's going on." Her lower lip quivered as she fought tears. John knelt beside her, unsure how to comfort children who'd lost so much. "I'm Officer Harris," he replied, voice cracking with concern. "I'm here to help. We'll figure this out, okay?" In that moment, John recalled every empty evening he'd spent alone, wishing for the life that had slipped through his fingers when Sarah died. Something stirred inside him, an unfamiliar yet overwhelming urge to protect and nurture. As the social worker explained that these 6 black girls had no known relatives and that it was unlikely any foster family would take them all, a startling idea crystallized in John's mind. "I'll do it," he heard himself say, not fully believing his own voice. I'll take them all." His declaration stunned everyone in the room, not least of all himself. By dawn the next day, however, John had convinced the social worker and Child Protective Services that he was determined to keep the 6 sisters together. Over the following weeks, an avalanche of paperwork, interviews, and home inspections ensued. People openly wondered, could one white cop really become the father of 6 black girls? For John, the question was never about could he do it, it was how he would. And once his application for adoption was approved, a new chapter began, one that revealed both the depth of his determination and the staggering complexity of raising children who brought a different culture, life experiences, and heartbreak into his own. The Harris household transformed overnight. John's tidy furniture arrangements gave way to scattered toys, stuffed animals, and backpacks. Mornings turned chaotic, Ania waking everyone up, younger sisters squealing over who got the first pancake, and squeals of "Dad, I can't find my shoes," echoing through the house. John slept less than ever, but smiled more than he had in years. He discovered that fatherhood to these 6 girls wasn't merely an expansion of daily responsibility, it was a total reconstruction of his heart. Yet the challenges loomed large. He realized he lacked basic know-how, like styling their hair. The second oldest, Naomi, who was only 9, had to show him the difference between cornrows and simple braids. Determined to learn, John spent evenings watching tutorial videos and practicing on dolls. The local beauty supply shop's owner found it endearing and sometimes amusing when John would come in, eyes wide, asking for a specific styling cream or detangling product. Outside the walls of the house, not everyone embraced this new family. Curious glances shadowed them at the grocery store, and hushed whispers carried in the local diner. Some folks made subtle remarks, implying John was either out of his depth or craving attention. The older girls felt it most sharply. When Anaya and Naomi started at their new school, classmates wondered if their dad was really theirs, but for each painful moment they found an uplifting gesture. An elderly neighbor named Mr. Peterson, who lived across the street, dropped by with homemade bread and offered to help set up bunk beds. A thoughtful church member welcomed the girls to Sunday school. "You bring them every week," she told John with a genuine smile, "and we'll make sure they feel right at home." In time, John realized that building a blended family took more than just love and legal documents. It required hard conversations about race, identity, and the sisters' late parents. He spent many nights reassuring the younger ones when they cried out for Mom and Dad in their sleep, and he'd often find the older girls huddled, whispering about how much they missed the life they used to know. John's comfort was listening to their stories. He never dismissed their pain. He invited each sister to share memories of their parents, favorite foods, funny road trips, bedtime routines. They laughed and cried together. Slowly, it dawned on the sisters that John wasn't erasing their past, but honoring it while building a future. One Sunday after church, John noticed that 3 of the sisters looked unusually subdued. Typically, they'd be racing around or teasing each other about who got to ride shotgun in the car. This day, though, their eyes were cast downward. Later, while the other sisters watched a movie, Camilla, the middle child, bravely explained the cause of their discomfort. "Dad, people keep asking us questions," she said hesitantly, scuffing her shoe on the carpet. "They say, 'Why is your dad white?' And 'Did he rescue you from something bad?' I don't know how to answer." John's heart twisted. He realized he couldn't shield them from prying questions. He took a seat beside Camilla. "You can tell them the truth, sweetie, that I love you girls and chose to be your dad. That's all they really need to know." Yet even as he encouraged them, John felt ill-equipped to help them navigate racial tensions. He was a white man in a predominantly white town. He recalled the first time he had tried to comfort Ebony, the sister with the brightest smile, after someone asked if she was really adopted or just a foster kid. Ebony had clung to John, but a wedge of fear and uncertainty lingered in her expression. In hopes of doing better, John reached out to a neighboring city's support group for transracial adoptive families. On a crisp Saturday, he drove the girls an hour away to attend group sessions. They listened to older teens who'd grown up in families that didn't match their race. The sisters laughed at stories of hair disasters and misunderstood cultural references, but also took solace in hearing how others found confidence in their unique identities. John soaked in advice, talk openly about race, provide resources that reflect the girl's heritage, recognize that sometimes a loving parent doesn't have all the answers but can learn alongside the child. Those hours at the support group proved to be a turning point. John began filling the house with books featuring diverse characters, exploring Black history, and celebrating milestones like Kwanzaa alongside Christmas. The girl's sense of belonging deepened, and John's own understanding broadened day by day. Time flowed on like a river, steady and unrelenting. The 6 Harris sisters transformed from shy, grief-stricken little girls into energetic adolescents with dreams and ambitions. While this blossoming thrilled John, it also tested him. Ania, always the protective older sister, took on a maternal role. She'd plan Saturday chores and supervise homework while John was on duty. By the time she was 16, she was juggling babysitting, a part-time job at the local diner, and top-tier grades. John worried she carried too much responsibility, but Ania insisted it was her way of giving back. Naomi's knack for science sprouted into a full-blown passion. She joined the robotics club and dazzled her teachers with her analytical mind. On weekends, John took her to science fairs in bigger cities, beaming with pride as she pored over circuit boards and coded contraptions that whirred and clicked with mechanical life. Camilla, the middle child, threw herself into creative arts. Painting, singing, dancing, she tried them all. Although self-doubt crept in when peers questioned her style or taste, she always returned to a paintbrush or microphone. Ebony discovered a talent for sports, particularly track. She trained tirelessly, breezing through local meets and setting new records. Her drive was unstoppable, though sometimes she pushed herself to the point of exhaustion, determined to be more than a small-town star. The 2 youngest, Trinity and Dawn, approached adolescence with an eagerness to find themselves. Trinity dove into school plays, shining bright on stage. Dawn, the baby of the group, made friends easily and became the social butterfly. They both adored teasing John whenever he tried to use the latest slang, which invariably sounded awkward coming from a middle-aged cop, yet with adolescence came emotional storms. When Naomi experienced her first brush with overt racism, a teacher's condescending remark that she was surprisingly adept at coding, she retreated into her bedroom for days. John knocked softly on her door, feeling useless when she refused to speak. Eventually, though, Naomi broke down in tears, admitting she feared she would never really be seen as just a smart kid. She would always be the Black girl who's good at science. In these fragile moments, John felt his limitations most acutely. He couldn't rewrite the world, nor could he pretend to understand an experience he had never lived. But he could listen, he could advocate, and he could pledge that no matter how others treated them, they'd always have a sanctuary at home. Years slipped by, and the sisters approached their final days of high school, with dreams of college and careers dancing in their heads. John still wore his Meadow Grove police uniform, although new lines creased his brow. On his days off, he found himself uncharacteristically tired and short of breath, attributing it to just getting older. But one winter, a persistent cough morphed into bouts of breathlessness. A routine checkup turned into a battery of tests. And at age 58, John Harris received a life-altering diagnosis, stage 2 lung cancer. The house that once echoed with lively chatter fell silent the evening John gathered his daughters, now mostly young adults, and explained what the doctors had found. Ania, by then a sophomore at a local college, was the first to wrap him in a protective hug. Naomi, accepted to a prestigious university's engineering program, stood stunned. Ebony wept openly, fearful of losing yet another parent figure. Camilla trembled as she took John's hand, while Trinity and Dawn struggled to speak through tears. Despite the shock, the sisters rallied. They juggled class schedules, part-time jobs, and John's medical appointments. Anaya slept at his bedside on nights chemotherapy sapped his strength. Naomi coded an app to track his medication schedules and side effects. Camilla drew bright, uplifting murals around the house. Ebony drove him to physical therapy sessions. Trinity and Dawn devoted entire weekends to cooking healthy meals that appealed to John's fading appetite. John, initially tempted to downplay his illness, realized he had 6 formidable caregivers who wouldn't tolerate him minimizing anything. If once he had rescued them, now they were rescuing him. Weeks of chemotherapy battered his body, nights blurred as chills, nausea, and exhaustion overtook him. But with every wave of misery, a sister's comforting presence was there, a damp washcloth for his brow, a hand gripping his as the fourth dripped, or a whispered assurance that they loved him. News of John's illness spread quickly through Meadow Grove. At first, many townspeople were stunned. Officer Harris, the steadfast lawman who had adopted 6 girls, was gravely ill. But soon, support poured in. Church members organized fundraisers. Folks brought over meals and left encouraging notes in the mailbox. Some of the same individuals who had once eyed John's family with skepticism now prayed fervently for his recovery. A pivotal moment occurred at the Meadow Grove Community Center, where a special community care event was organized to honor John's years of service. Residents shared stories of how he'd helped them, like the teenager he'd steered away from petty crime, or the elderly widow whose errands he'd volunteered to run every Christmas. The girls stood side by side, tears in their eyes, listening as the town they called home realized how deeply John's dedication had shaped so many lives. Eventually, John's condition stabilized. The cancer hadn't disappeared, but the aggressive treatment slowed its progress. Though weaker than before, he found renewed purpose in witnessing the sisters step into adulthood with unshakable commitment. One by one, the Harris sisters flew the nest. Anya moved to a nearby city to pursue a career in social work, yearning to help children just like she and her sisters had once been. Naomi ventured to an Ivy League institution, determined to revolutionize biotech. Ebony earned a track scholarship, blazing across university fields with the same unstoppable grit. Camilla's artistic flair landed her at an arts conservatory, while Trinity focused on performance arts. Dawn, the youngest, opted for a communications program, quickly finding her voice as a podcaster and local radio personality. Though physically apart, the sisters remained tightly connected, visiting John whenever possible and flooding the house with laughter during holidays. Each homecoming, they noticed a little more grey in his hair or deeper lines on his face. But he stayed strong in spirit, especially when they reported their achievements, heartbreaks, or revelations about the wider world. They teased him for being overprotective. Dad, I'm practically 25. Ebony would groan but secretly cherished the stability he still offered. Years rolled by. John marked his 65th birthday, the cancer in partial remission. Weakened yet victorious in spirit, he could hardly believe he'd once been a rookie policeman with no idea how to do a single braid. Now he was a grandfather, thanks to Anaya's newborn daughter, and father-in-law to Naomi's spouse. One summer afternoon, all 6 sisters converged back in Meadow Grove, an air of secrecy swirling among them. John's hair was thinner. The weight of illness had taken its toll, but he still radiated that gentle steadiness. After dinner, the sisters led him to the living room. They exchanged eager glances. Dawn spoke up. Dad, you've always told us love can change lives like how your love changed ours. Ebony nodded. We all realized we wouldn't be who we are without the home you gave us. We want more kids like us, kids who've lost parents or been in and out of foster care, to find security and belonging too. Then Naomi, always the planner, unveiled a framed document. In intricate lettering it read, "The Jonathan Harris Home and Heart Foundation." The sisters had pooled resources, applied for grants, and garnered community support to establish a non-profit organization dedicated to helping children in foster care stay connected to their siblings and find adoptive homes willing to keep them together. John stared at the document, tears forming in the corners of his eyes. "You did this for me?" he whispered, voice trembling. Ania stepped closer, resting her hand on his shoulder. "We did this because of you. You showed us that a single choice to love can rewrite someone's destiny. We want to pass that on, Dad." The room resonated with emotion. John lowered his head, letting tears slip down. "Thank you," he managed, "for carrying forward what we started all those years ago." The official launch of the Jonathan Harris Home and Heart Foundation was held at the Meadow Grove Community Center. Banners swayed in a light breeze, proclaiming the foundation's mission to unite siblings in foster care and support adoptive parents with cultural competency training, mentorship, and funding. People crowded in from neighboring towns. Social workers, police officers, and local politicians came to hear the success story. One man had given 6 orphaned girls a home, and now those 6 women wanted to do the same for countless others. John watched from the sidelines, too overcome to speak at first. There was a video montage featuring pictures of the sisters from their early days, skinny legs dangling off porch steps, tattered backpacks, uncertain smiles. Then came footage of them now. Ebony winning a collegiate race, Camilla unveiling a mural, Naomi receiving a science award, all against the backdrop of John's unwavering love. Finally, he took the stage, cane in hand, standing erect despite the ache in his bones. "I'm not sure I can convey how moved I am," he began. "When I decided to adopt these 6 beautiful girls, I wasn't trying to be a hero. I just couldn't bear the thought of them losing each other." He paused, gathering breath. "And yes, we faced doubts and obstacles. Yet these young women taught me more than I ever taught them about resilience, culture, the complexities of identity. Above all, they showed me that love is the only real foundation for a family. And now they've created a foundation in my name, but truly it's a testament to their devotion and vision." The applause was thunderous. Cameras flashed. The Harris sisters rushed on stage to wrap their dad in a tearful embrace, sealing their family bond in front of an entire community and, in many ways, the world. By the next spring, the Jonathan Harris Home and Heart Foundation had matched siblings with caring families across the state. Training programs for adoptive parents became a hallmark of its success. John often participated virtually, sharing personal anecdotes about crossing cultural divides and teaching other families how to cultivate understanding. Meanwhile, his health seesawed. Some days, he felt almost robust, telling jokes and surprising his daughters with homemade breakfasts. Other days, the fatigue weighed heavily, forcing him to retire to bed early. Each time, though, his daughters circled back, ensuring no hospital stay or chemo session ever felt lonely. One golden late summer morning, Anaya walked into John's living room to find him typing furiously on a laptop. His brows were furrowed with focus. "Dad?" she asked gently. "What are you working on?" He turned the screen toward her. "My memoir," he said simply. "Our story from my side, everything I wish someone had told me when I first adopted you girls. I think it might help other folks out there who feel they can't possibly take on children who need them." Touched by his dedication, Ania offered to help proofread. Soon, all the sisters contributed anecdotes and clarifications. What started as John's personal recollection became a comprehensive tapestry of shared experiences, bridging the gap between a single father's viewpoint and 6 daughters growing up in a household shaped by love, differences, and triumph over adversity. When the manuscript was complete, it found a publisher almost by fate. The proceeds were pledged to the foundation, ensuring more children could remain with their siblings in a safe, loving home. The Harris family continued to mark life's passages, some joyful, some bittersweet. A wedding, a grandchild's first birthday, a job promotion, a scare that John's cancer had returned. Through it all, the family's rallying point remained love and steadfastness. One crisp fall afternoon, the sisters planned a surprise for John. They asked him to arrive at the newly renovated Meadow Grove Community Park. When he arrived, he saw a crowd gathered around what looked like a memorial plaque set in stone near a playground. As he drew closer, his eyes widened in recognition. The plaque bore his name and the words, "In honor of Officer Jonathan Harris, who taught us that true family is found in the unconditional choice to love." He turned, speechless, as Ebony explained the plaque. "The town insisted, Dad. They wanted a permanent tribute to the man who reminded us of the power of compassion." Tears blurred John's vision. He recalled his earliest days in Meadow Grove, the routine patrols, the sense of emptiness after Sarah died. Who could have predicted this path? That he would end up with 6 remarkable daughters who redefined love for him and for the whole community. As the years pressed on, the swirl of everyday life carried the Harris sisters across the country and even overseas. Ebony did philanthropic work in Africa between track seasons. Naomi spearheaded biotech innovations in Silicon Valley. Camilla curated international art exhibitions. Ania ran region-wide social services, often referencing her own upbringing to drive home the importance of permanent, loving homes for siblings. Trinity graced Broadway, while Dawn became a prominent media figure, using her platform to advocate for transracial adoption and family unity. Yet, no matter how far they traveled, Meadow Grove remained the heartland. They returned for birthdays, for John's medical checkups, or simply because they missed Dad's cooking, though they teased him mercilessly about his reliance on old recipes. John's greatest pride was seeing how the younger generation, his grandchildren, embraced the family legacy. They grew up amid stories of how Grandpa John once learned to style their mother's hair, how he stood up to bigotry in his own quiet way, and how he never let circumstance or color stand in the way of loving fiercely. When the grandchildren asked him, "Grandpa, is it true you just found all 6 daughters in one day?" John would laugh gently. "I didn't find them, kids. They were always meant to be my family. Our paths just happened to cross at exactly the right moment." Though he lived a fulfilling and extended life, John's fight against cancer remained an ever-present backdrop. In his late 70s, his condition worsened. He remained at home under hospice care, surrounded by daily visits from daughters and grandchildren. The old house that had once been a beacon of new beginnings became his sanctuary in the twilight of life. On a peaceful afternoon, as the sun streamed through the windows, John dozed in a recliner, tired but content. The 6 sisters gathered around him, softly chatting about childhood memories, the time Ebony broke a vase while practicing her running starts in the hallway, the fancy braids Naomi tried on Dawn, resulting in a tangles fiasco, the tears they shared when they first realized John's adoption would keep them together forever. John stirred, opened his eyes, and smiled at his daughters with a warmth that transcended words. "I'm so proud of you," he whispered, voice cracking from emotion and weakness. "You're everything I dreamed you'd be: intelligent, brave, compassionate." Anaya bent to kiss his forehead, tears sliding down her cheeks. "We are who we are because of you, Dad." In that final moment, the entire family huddled close, clasping hands. And in that circle of unconditional love, John Harris passed peacefully. Even after John's passing, the Harris sisters carried him forward in every endeavor. The Jonathan Harris Home and Heart Foundation flourished under their leadership, bringing hope and belonging to siblings in foster care across the nation. By the 5th anniversary of John's death, thousands of children had been adopted through the Foundation's programs, brothers and sisters who might otherwise have been separated, finding families who understood the meaning of unconditional acceptance. On the anniversary of his passing each year, the sisters gathered at John's home, which they jointly owned. Over home-cooked meals and tearful laughter, they toasted the father who had taught them that family has no bounds. They also published John's memoir posthumously, titled Where Love Begins, My Journey with 6 Daughters. It soared to national acclaim, sparking discussions on transracial adoption, sibling unity, and the universal importance of empathy. Classrooms studied passages from it. Talk shows interviewed the sisters about their experiences. And in every story told, in every recollection, John remained alive, a symbol of how one person's courage can ripple through countless lives. Time might have taken him physically, but the seeds he planted blossomed in the hearts of all who'd met him, read about him, or benefited from the foundation started in his name. John Harris's story was no longer just an anecdote in a small town. It was a guiding light for adoptive parents and children yearning for a sense of family. In the end, Jonathan Harris's legacy reminds us that true belonging isn't forged by blood, nor limited by the color of our skin. Rather, it's an unbreakable bond created when someone looks into another's eyes, child or adult, and chooses love over fear. The 6 Harris sisters went on to change thousands of lives by championing the very same values their father embodied: compassion, perseverance, and an unwavering commitment to one another. If this story warms your heart or sparks your own dreams of helping children in need, let John's journey be your inspiration. Open your hearts, have courage, and remember that even small acts of love can produce ripples of transformation. Thank you for reading and sharing in this celebration of family and hope. If you believe in the power of love to reshape lives, be sure to like this video, share it with friends, and subscribe to our channel. Every act of support helps ensure that stories like this reach and inspire even more people.